Hey everybody, my name's David W. Pedersen. I was the writer, location sound guy, post sound guy, co-composer, and producer, one of the producers for the film that you're watching. This film was made after Kim and I had worked together on a film that was not made, after we lost our executive producer. And it was basically our way of getting back at it, not losing any of that momentum that we built up. So I just kind of wrote a short script, and we adapted it, and Blake took over as director, and we worked very hard, had no budget whatsoever, but did everything we could to make it as cinematic as possible. This is Pete Novice. He was a real find. He walked into the audition and blew everybody away, and it was my first time really working with a very professional actor, and I said his name wrong pretty much the entire time he was around. I kept calling him Navis because I didn't want to. There was like a wrong chance I was going to say novice, which sounds like intermediate novice, so I didn't take that chance, and I called him the wrong name the whole time, and then he corrected me like the last day. So this hill that he's sitting on right here is actually a hill that my dad got hit in the head with a sled, and spent 6 months in Northwestern Hospital in Chicago, in Rockford. This is me speaking here in a moment. This particular location, the police were called many times because of the two bodies, or the body that was being removed from the apartment. I can't remember which suburb it was. This was a rough day. But that's the guy that just left, just went into the van. That's Michael Charles Saubert Jr., who I just worked with on our first feature film, which is Synthetic Love Incorporated. He's awesome, Mikey. And the other guy, I don't know if he's alive anymore, because I've never heard back from any emails. He came for the one day, did the one thing, asked me, what to wear, as far as shoes and whatever, and never heard from him. So if you know where Mark Rockford's at, tell him I said hello. That's, of course, Rick Hogan. He's a Chicago writer. He was on WTTW, PBS, I think. I don't know if that's right, but NPR for sure. And it's me providing the ham, the much-needed ham. Look at this look, and Mikey gives him. Say, what? Hey, what's up? Hey, what's up, bro? Let's go. Got some bodies to pick up, okay? Pete. What do you say about Pete? He's got a very distinctive walk, which you can see here. I love that walk. It's kind of the same way I walk. That's David Hubert. I think right after this one, he was like a background guy in Transformers, one of the Transformers movies. That's probably the most famous person in the film, which is Buster the dog and his owner, Matt, who is now married to a Cusack. He was our downstairs neighbor. He's a very tall gentleman. Joyce Porter, Chicago actress. I just saw her recently at the Paracon, Chicago Paracon, and she's so tiny. I forgot how small she was, but she showed up for a showing of this, and we talked for a moment, and things seemed to be she seemed to be doing very well. It's very nice to see Joyce. I was actually booming in the back here, so me and Joyce got a little bit of time to talk about the script and whatever, but most of the time, because Blake was the director, I kind of shied away from talking about my thoughts, at least in public. I'd come home and say, oh, what's going on? What's Blake thinking? But Blake did a hell of a job, and I couldn't be happier. As a writer, it's hard to pass stuff off, but Blake's the right guy for the job. It's Jeff Scaduto. What are you going to say about Saham? He's going to stab him. The police were told about this scene the night before. So they were actually there before anybody showed up, but there was a jerk upstairs neighbor that came down at 11:30 Say, what are you doing? Wake me up 11:30 on a Sunday. Trying to do some sleep here. And he said, show's over or something stupid. And so we had 45 minutes left to shoot, and we got it done. This is Foley, which means that it was added in after when I was recording into the Zoom H4n, which was the portable 2-track recorder that I was using. I had the phantom power set incorrectly, so it caused a high squeal on some parts of the scenes, and we had to completely redo it. So Kim and I made these bag noises and tried to time them to the actual scene afterwards because the audio, you couldn't use it. So this is our apartment, though. Or was, now we've moved. There's some Dungeons and Dragons stuff on the bottom left. I got 2 copies of that. Yeah, it's pretty good. Tamika. And, of course, wonderful Mr. Marcus Davidson, who is a great person to work with. I worked with him again on Synthetic Love Incorporated. He came in and played a detective or a sergeant. He showed up, knocked it out in an hour and a half, and went home. It was great. This is John Rosman and Mickey Rosenquist and myself wrote the score, but some of the stuff in this I had nothing to do with the music, and this is one of the tracks where Mickey and John just went in and recorded something to the film, I believe, and just it's amazing what they came up with. They were amazing musicians. This is the Route 66 Diner in Joliet. This is Pete Navis and Marcus Davidson, the voice on the phone. This was a very tough day of shooting. They kept the restaurant open, and I'm in the back. We used lavaliers, which are wireless microphones. The problem is that Marcus has his hands crossed over his chest here, so his sound wasn't the best. There's all this clamoring in the background, and the first 2 hours we shot the audio, you couldn't even use it. So once they started winding things down, if you can see the owner right behind Pete's head, she peeks over here, staring directly in the camera. That's awesome. But I asked Blake, I said, hey, it's kind of quiet after a couple hours had passed and people had kind of left. I said, Blake, please, can we do some more? Because the audio on the first one was terrible, and we did, and that saved us. I did so much work on this in post to try to correct it, but there was little that I could do and little that Kim could do, and it is what it is. I give up. The thing about the crossword puzzle is there's 2 clues there. Nero, who was the Roman emperor who was accused of burning his own Rome to the ground and fiddling while it was burning, and then atone for your sins. I've never made it, terribly public, other than maybe at one film festival, that the film, this particular scene in the film is about hope or faith. It's not about necessarily religion. As you'll see here in this scene, Marcus and Pete, or the characters, are talking about this box, this luggage, this story of the tribe that finds the luggage. And what that's really about is science and what place does science have in the life of a spiritual person, and how far do you go, and what does that do? And I don't have the answers. I'm not saying that this just asks the question, and it's between 2 friends. And this scene is very heavily influenced by my coffee and crossword puzzle conversations with my friend, hip hop artist Zen. We would get together every Wednesday and do the crossword puzzle, and we would talk and kind of talk about these philosophical questions. And he's very different thinking than I am, and we would argue and get mad and then, be friends again at the end of it. But it's very, it's fun when you have a friend like that where you're trying to convince each other, this is the side, and when everybody's just a little right about it. Most things, you know.
Who knows? They killed each other before they could even find out.
Right. The answer is, of course, war. The answer to religion or science is war. That is Keith Libner in the background. He's a gaffer. Worked with him as well on Synthetic Love Incorporated. Hi, Keith.
With everything that's been going on or whatever.
Kind of, sometimes it feels like he hates my guts. But in like a joking manner, but sometimes I don't know. I put a lot of pressure on him on the last film, and I'm sorry for that. He did a fantastic job with Kim, but low budget indie films, anybody knows, man, when you're on set, it's grueling, it's hard, you know. This one, we had no money, you know.
You want me to say it too?
See, I didn't think that this joke it was gonna land, but the editing we tried other ways. We tried it, you know, where it's a little bit longer, we pause. But I really enjoyed Marcus's performance, especially in this particular part of the scene. You know, you see more of his personality, and then that look, of course, as he walks. You know, originally in the original script they were brothers, but Marcus came in and did such a great job in the audition that I was able to write that they were friends. Even though originally in the script they were brothers, that conversation was still very much influenced by my conversations with Zen. Kimberly. These are this is in Rockford, and these are Rockford folks. This guy right here is my best friend. That's Brett Bonnage, and looking confused, putting my hand down with my Western boots. So this is where I grew up. I grew up Rockford, Illinois. I used to run around these same streets. Tim Stotts did the post effects. A little bit of shaking. Another Rockford guy. And then we matched this particular spot with our home in Piatone, and those are Heather and her boys. And again, this is the assistant director Saham Husseini and Jeff Scaduto, two wonderful, wonderful people who are in every one of our films that we've made so far. Other than Saham was AD on Pins, which was a short that Scaduto starred in. But Saham was in The Farkas Laws and was also in Synthetic Love Incorporated, and Scaduto was in both of those as well. Scaduto is a fine gentleman. Saham is a great director in his own right. His film Heart Connected has, I think, just gotten into its 6th Independent Film Festival. So congratulations if you're listening, Saham. That's my this part right here. Judith Rice was recorded in the car with a boom mic. It was just me and Melissa after shooting, and I was so frustrated with everything that I was just ready to get the hell out of there. Last thing I did on set was record that for the day, and that was a wrap after that. This is in Beloit, Wisconsin. One thing that we try to do, we try to keep in the context all these locations. They're different. We wanted interesting locations. If you're broke and you don't have any money, one way to make your film look really like a film is to find really interesting places to shoot. And the thing that all of our locations have, Joliet, Rockford, Beloit, mine is Piatone, is that there's a river. There's a river that combines alongside each one of those little towns. So when you mix them all together, it kind of looks like the same place. And it could be anywhere in that Rust Belt, you know, from Milwaukee to, you know, Buffalo, New York. I actually edited this scene. I'm very proud of it. There's a foot shot in here, and man, that's a really good foot shot. I'm going to take a sip of tea. This hum that you're hearing in the background, I don't think I got enough presence or ambient noise in the background. So what I did later on was me and Kim went to a university, and there's like a boiler room, and I got some hums and kind of mixed and matched. This musical piece that you're hearing right now is actually me playing the guitar. Mickey called me and said he liked the piece and he thought the piece fit, and but he couldn't figure out, and asked me if it was in an alternate tuning, and I said yeah, it was. And I came in and I think we had it in an hour and a half. We recorded it, and so I think it's a really interesting song for this kind of journey of him going through this tunnel of disbelief and then belief, when he stares out the window and sees, and the piano is that's actually Mickey playing the piano, but this is when it's kind of like sinking in here, It's kind of goes from this minor to this major. And of course, this message here is not intended to be a suicide note. It's a note saying these are all the things that have happened, but Moses is so controlling of himself and of others that he's planning out what's going to happen, and nothing goes the way he expects or wants. And he ends up being the strongest person, if only by accident, though. This is Melissa Walker. She's great. She's a Chicago actress. I remember we had our first preview of the film at her house, and drove into downtown Chicago. She said we could find a place to park. I could not find a place, for the love of God, to park. And I had me being just this stupid Midwestern idiot person that I am, I brought a case of beer, a cooler of beer. We had to park, freaking like 4 blocks down. I don't remember where we're at, and I'm carrying a cooler of beer downtown Chicago and to this very nice apartment that she had. And there was a guy, I can't remember if it was a Halloween party or the preview of this film. There was a guy dressed up like Michael Jackson. It was probably the Halloween. It was great. He did like a 4-minute thing. Everybody was clapping and applauding after 1 minute. And he said, "No, I got 3 more minutes to go." His name was Preston Tate. These leaves drove me nuts. And they used 2 cameras to shoot this thing. It was I think they did probably 4 takes. It's 6 minutes long. I'm booming. I got this thing on this long pole, and I got nowhere to go. And they just keep telling me boom in the shot, and I'm fed up. I'm ready to go.
Well, I did kiss him once.
So I got a little frustrated, and my Zoom H4n kept dying on me. But we got the film, and that's what a good director like Blake and a good DP like Kim, they push forward. And the sound guys were known for being cranky. Writers were known for being cranky. As a director, I've been on the other side now, and I've seen boy, everybody's got input on what you're supposed to be doing, and oh man, it's tough. I really was glad that Blake and Pete decided not to go with the comical kind of like, no, I mean like friends, delivery, and that they went with an earnest, because the ham here would not have worked. I think it's important that Moses is really trying to convince her. No, I meant, like as a friend, and Pete nailed it, I guess they had, before they got together, for this scene for shooting, they actually had a mock breakup and everything, and whatever they did, it worked. I'm telling you, like 3 or 4 takes. That's it. Melissa showed up. We picked her up at the train station. It was me and the assistant director, Saham. She asked where the dressing room was, and I said, we went to Wendy's, and she went into the Wendy's bathroom and changed. And me and Saham popped a couple nuggets, What are you gonna do? There's a little bit of that Midwest. I gotta go. This look right here, though, man. The look of when she's about to walk away. And this is the last time she's gonna see him. ever. And she, I mean,
I think it's better if we don't.
Moses doesn't really know that. He cares about the, things aren't going the way that he expected, but she knows. That's it. I guess I should talk about why is the film in reverse. It was written in reverse. Originally, it was going to be much shorter. It was just going to be vignettes, this kind of weird story. And, it kind of just evolved into this bigger thing. The comic book by Ryan Burns, the Chicago cartoonist and artist and comic book artist, Roderick, playing accordion. He's in a band in Chicago called Surgery with Corey Matchek. Awesome. But the comic book, Beautiful View of Nothing, was put out before the film was, and that actually has the original ending, which is not what this film's end is. That's more of like kind of what I thought we were getting into, but again, it just started evolving and we went with it. It's great to have the actors read for you, and then as a writer be able to write around their strengths or write around the changes,
I'll answer your question with a question. What's the point of the podcast?
The other thing too is like these radio call-in segments. I think are a great way for a writer or a storyteller to get through exposition, stuff that needs to be said, but you don't want the characters necessarily telling you what's going on or what's happening. So television and radio are a great way if you're looking to get your exposition out. It's kind of forgivable in those two formats. This is Rockford. I used to drink 40s on that very same train bridge when I was like 15 or 16. Yeah, good times. This part right here is our apartment. This is all Foley. Well, half of this scene is Foley. And I won't tell you which. Well, doesn't matter. I said all, now I said half. Okay, this first part is Foley, which means I had to go in and I recorded all of this and had to mix it with this second half of dialogue. And the way that I did that was right where he's standing right there. I placed a boom mic and I watched the scene and I watched the scene and I watched the scene and I timed it out, and then I did the exact same actions, talking, pacing, doing the timing in my head. So I'd say coffee, 1, 2, 3, pour, cabinet. I would say the stuff in my head and time it. So that is usually, I think what we got was one take of audio of me doing everything the right way and matching up perfectly. It took forever to do that. So please, any of you got independent filmmakers out there or people just looking to get into film, save some money for the sound guys. Pay the sound guy first. You can shoot it on anything. Film, your video is forgivable. Bad video, bad sound trumps bad video. And I don't know how many things I've seen that look absolutely stunning, and you can't hear a thing that they're saying, or it just sounds like, they're talking into the Grand Canyon. There's so much bouncing, around their voice. So, get somebody that knows what they're doing. Not me, because I didn't know what I was doing here, and that made me have to do 8 hours of Foley for this one scene. A little Kubrick-esque part right here. This, and we return to the original opening. And it's kind of like a bookends thing, and I use that quite a bit in my writing, my storytelling. Just give a little bit, and there's a little bit of a payoff. Okay, now I remember this. Okay, now we know what's going on. So what's going to happen? Is the world going to be sucked into this endless void, or what? So now you've set up this expectation, and I believe if the audience just participates a little bit, gives you a little bit of their time, you reward them. And in this one, there's the double ending. And then also the third part, which is my favorite to write for, is I want the conversation to continue when the audience leaves the theater or after the film is over. I want I don't know how it ends. You know, I want them to talk about, does he take the pill? Does he not take the pill? Because that's a good conversation you can have, you know, and, you know, their imagination is better than mine. What they can get out of it, you know, or bring to it is, it's endless. This was 3 o'clock in the morning. We were originally going to do it that night or something, but we could not. There was some kind of homecoming thing going on, and then so we snuck in at 3 o'clock in the morning, and after staying at my sister Ellie's house, it was very cold, miserable. Kim got sick. Blake took over. The sound's good, and Pete's performance here is spot freaking on that line right there. We only had 2 little battery operated LEDs, but we made it work. When we got this stuff back and Kim was looking at it, she's like, I quit. I don't want to make movies anymore. I hate this. It's so grainy. It's so dark. I can't see, you know. And Kim and I were together during this, but we were not married. We're now since married, and part of my job as a producer and a husband is, you know, to push her a little bit, and I definitely do. But she did a fantastic job on this film. I mean, look at that. You know, she knows what she's doing, and she just keeps getting better. But she blows my mind. Stuff she comes up with. I'm glad that Pete didn't just all and out go, you know, bawling on this or something, because I think what he brought to it was, you know, genuine. Goodbye to all things.
Goodbye to all things.
So now he sits down. All of these things are combined. You've got the letter, you've got the wine from the thief, you've got the music, and you've got the chair that he was sitting in when the GRA bad guys were pulling his neighbor out of their building. So all of these things, and this was done, you know, on purpose, you know, and if you didn't notice, okay. If you did notice, then maybe I'm a dummy and think that there's more to it, I guess. But I wanted these little different segments, these vignettes to collide towards the end, you know, and have this moment where little fragments of his life now gone, you know. And he's going to deal with this approaching endlessness. But the idea that we understand it for him, again, going back to that conversation that him and his friend Sam had, the idea that the box wasn't open all the way, but we were able to understand the universe in a way. It says something for human beings. You know, and I say if we can understand that without destroying ourselves, you know, hopefully with all this beautiful knowledge we have, you know, we continue to destroy ourselves. Oh my goodness. I think that same day, I think there was a bunch of people doing LARP, which is the live action role play, you know, 40-year-old men hitting each other with Nerf bats. That's all right, man. It's a good way to spend a Sunday, I suppose. There's worse ways. This is great. This is downtown Rockford again. This is one of my favorite shots of the film. This is what you get when you have high poverty and high rate of unemployment. Ghost town. I mean, that's sad to say, you know, but we were able to get a good shot out of it at least. You know, pretty sad, but it's a beautiful shot. And back to the apartment. Question is, does he take the pill or does he not take the pill? And that's for you guys to continue on. There was a call-in show when I lived in Rockford, and I used to listen to it all the time, and man, there's some real weirdos out there. I say that as a weirdo. Boy, there's some real weirdos out there. Everything's a conspiracy.
I have a question for Jonah.
Also, you probably noticed as well, all of these are Old Testament names. There's no reason. I'm not a religious person or a very like a super spiritual person or whatever. I just thought, with end times or whatever, you're talking about the Armageddon or whatever, I guess you call it, the apocalypse is a better word. What better way than to use names for the Bible? Thank you so much for listening. I'm sorry I ramble. Yeah. Cheers.